I got a small grant that the three of us were all involved in. And like essentially the process, if I go from start to finish, would be like I had to write a grant proposal. There was a competitive grant proposal, and then like you put hours into your grant proposal because you have to write like a background to justify why you need this kind of research. You have to come up with a methodology how you're going to collect this research, and then you have to justify its significance. That's usually how a grant proposal goes. And then after you get the money, you have to hire someone to do all the data collection. So in this case, I had a bunch of interviews, and then I had to go through the whole freaking admin process of hiring someone, which is a nightmare in itself, because you have to because universities all have their templates about what you need to do for the ads and like where you need to put them and specific criteria. You have to go through the interview process. And like eventually, yeah, I hired someone, but I still needed to get ethics done for that. And because the RA I hired didn't have any experience in ethics, so like we had to do all the ethics for it. And ethics is like a pain because like every single project needs ethical approval. And so ethics, you have to involves like writing an ethics application. So you've got the background again, you've got the methodology, and you have to talk about things like risks and like where you're going to store the data and how it's all secure and yada yada. And then you have to write up the consent form for your participants. And it's like you got to go through all the details as well. You think about how they're going to process it. And then what else is involved in ethics? The
consent form that no one reads on you.
Only ethics will read it. Yeah. So you get the ethics, and then it goes through a review process, and then they come back with this comments, and then you have to modify it, and you can bounce back quite a few times. And then every time you make one change, let's say on the ethics form, you then have to change on the consent form, and you have to change on all of these other things as well. And also in the ethics, you have to include all of your measures. So you have to decide all of that up front. So if you want to change a measure later down the track to like, you know, version A to version B, you have to put in an ethics modification for that. It's like, oh my God, freaking hell, just let me do my research. And then like after you get ethics, you can finally start your data collection. And so then you go through recruitment. So in your ethics, you also have to specify how you recruit and where you're going to recruit from. And then at times you need permission from those places. And you have to show justification for like how you got permission from those places to recruit from them, which is a pain. And then recruitment can take a while. Recruitment can take, for large projects, like 1 to 2 years because, you know, you're looking for a specific sample size. And if your study goes for like an hour, not a lot of people might want to do that, especially if you don't have money to offer them to reimburse them. And they're just doing it out of interest. It can take ages to recruit the numbers that you need. And then finally, usually recruitment is in line with data collection. So you collect your data while you're recruiting, and then eventually you'll get to a place where either you're sick of the fucking project and you're just like, okay, I would stop data collection now. But you have to sort of justify why you've stopped it here. Be like, oh, I have reached saturation. Or something like that. And then after that, you have to analyze the data. So in terms of like, if you get interviews, you have to like transcribe it all, and then you have to import it into the software and then do your analysis on it. And then only after that can you start writing up your manuscript. And then you write your manuscript, you write the background, and then it goes through to all of your different co-authors, and they come back with usually like a bunch of comments.
And tell you how much they hate it and how much is wrong with it, and how you have to redo everything again.
Yeah, even though you've done all the work, you have to send it to them, and anything they say you have to do. Because when you submit it for publication, you have to tick a box that says all the authors agree to this final manuscript. So they have to agree. And then if you want to kick them off, you can't do that because that's a political issue. And it's like you're going to burn that bridge, and it's not recommended. So you just have to suffer. It's all about the suffering. And then eventually you get to manuscript draft. Everyone has approved it. You submit it, and then it goes through an online submission system to a journal, and then it goes to reviewers, and then the reviewers, depending on how busy they are, they can take like 6 months to come back to you with revisions and then tell you how it's all shit. So you can get several layers of different kinds of feedback essentially. So you can get like minor revisions, which very, very rarely happens, which is basically they're like, oh, you made this one spelling error, fix it, and then you're good to go. Get major revisions, which is what I usually get, but I don't know if that's just like because I'm a shitty researcher. And then, or you can get a rejection. Sometimes it doesn't even go to reviews, and you get something called a desk rejection. Yeah, and then that's just what the editor's like, nah, fuck you, this sucks. This thing that you've worked like 4 years on, nah, it sucks. Throw it away. We don't want this trash. And they'll send you the same template email. It's like, oh yes, it's a very competitive thing. We only accept a small amount of like, you know, the submissions that we get, blah blah blah. But so, and then eventually, if you can get through all of that, that's when it gets published. And that's like Usually it takes quite a few years before any research. This is why it's like, yeah, this is why our lives are so busy, filled with admin and all of this crap. This is just for one paper.
It's pretty ridiculous, right? Like, the whole process from getting the funding, which, mind you, is a competitive process, all the way through to getting a publication is easy, like, a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
And this is for a little project.
Yeah.
For one publication. But when you're going for fellowships or whatever, they want to know that you've got at least 3 to 5 publications a year.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so ridiculous.